Good morning, Nicola Graham here from Tops Health. So I just want to share a little bit about what we've been doing during these kind of challenging times. So Tops, the Oxford Physiotherapy Service, I took over management in 2013. The business has been going since 1984, and we were on a quite a planned kind of 18 months to 2 years growth. We took over 2 other premises and businesses in February, and as of the 1st of April, we were planning to move into larger premises in Oxford and take over a health gym. That has currently been put on hold. So we decided from the 17th of March it was that we stopped doing our group classes and we moved to them all online, and we were able to set that up within about 24 hours. We're using Zoom as the platform for that, and we've had really great uptake from all our existing clients, and also some now kind of recommendations of new people joining as well. They've loved the social interaction, they've loved the normality of their kind of schedule. We've also got some older people that do the classes, and they've kind of taken onto the technology really easily, and they were isolated for a longer kind of 1 to 2 weeks prior to kind of the main government shutdown. So they have loved, as I say, the kind of social interaction and getting back to some element of normality in their new life. Our appointments, we took the call, it was about lunchtime on Friday the 20th of March, prior to the government's announcement that was our last day of doing face-to-face consultations. We felt it was too high risk, and so we moved all our consultations online from the Monday after that weekend, and we've used a variety of platforms, more so just whatever has been available for that patient, so that we've kind of kept as open communication as possible. So we've used a variety of Zoom, Skype, FaceTime. Also, some have just been happy with a telephone conversation as well, to update where they're at and what they can do going forward. So we were quite an active, I'd say, physio practice anyway, and so the loss of that face-to-face and that manual therapy hasn't had a direct impact on obviously our rehab patients. We're only, though, probably doing somewhere between 8 and 10% of what we would normally do in physiotherapy consultations across musculoskeletal, women's health, elderly kind of rehab, hand therapy. So obviously it is kind of a massive reduction to what our normal would be. As a business, we had employed admin staff, so they are all furloughed, and as the sole shareholder director, I'm managing the admin all myself, which is actually pretty manageable. Just we use MindBody as our class management software and TM3 for our appointments. It's also just been an opportunity for me to kind of delve a little deeper into the finances and just get on top of some of the debtors, and that again has been actually quite a painless process, and people have been quite responsive also in communicating with us as well. Then a lot of our clinical staff, so physios, instructors, they were all self-employed. We had a proportion that worked for the NHS and worked for us as kind of second employment, so they have been happy to just stop their hours completely, and those that were fully self-employed have been able to kind of continue on doing some online consultations and classes. And as I say, we've just tried to kind of keep as open communication with all the clinical staff, the admin staff, doing some regular Zoom meetings up to date. We also set up a Facebook community page for Tops Health, and that's got about 150 members, so not huge but really nice interaction. It's an opportunity for us to give some free resources out on mindfulness, nutrition, musculoskeletal health. It's also, people use it as kind of feeding back on classes that they've enjoyed, and just a way that we can kind of keep in contact with people in a different format. It's slightly different from our normal kind of newsletter emails that will go out as well, so it's a bit more of a regular communication. I've been quite wary about not bombarding people with emails. They probably had about 3 or 4 from us quite early on when we were transitioning to online, and I just think people are a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of kind of information and resources out there, that we've tried to kind of limit ours to the most useful, rather than to feel like they're being spammed or kind of just overwhelmed with the information, really. For me personally, as I say, as the sole director shareholder, I think the toughest time for me was actually on that Friday when they made the announcement that we were going into shutdown. It was before they'd started the daily briefing, so we had that whole of that weekend where I felt there was very little new information, and it felt like we were slightly in the kind of drawback of a tidal wave and not knowing how quickly that was going to come, because things were changing so quickly, and what the effect of that would be really. And so I think personally, for my own mental health, that was a really, really hard weekend. And I decided to watch a lot of news, which actually in reflection, I have very scaled that back. So for me as a business owner, I want to know what's going on and what the updates are. But I think you can limit that to just once a day. Regarding kind of operationally wise, we have 5 locations. 2 are within universities, so if we'd prepaid, we've had refunds back, which is great, and otherwise we haven't been asked to pay for rent going forward. The 3 other, one we pay rent to the council, so at this point we've just communicated that as we're closed we aren't able to pay that rent, and we have just had communication back saying okay, we'll get back to you at some point. The other 2 are private landlords. One, we at the moment have received a 3-month deferment of the rent to be paid over the next 3 years. So we'll kind of monitor that and continue the discussions depending on timescales of how things develop. The other one, we haven't had information directly back yet. I don't envisage it being a rent-free period. I do envisage it being a deferment, but we were also planning to leave that premises within the next kind of 3 months or so. So whether it's that they use our rent deposit to assist our cash flow or what happens around dilapidation costs, that's all kind of up in the air at the moment. But I have kept a very open dialogue with the secretary that manages the property. It was about probably 3 weeks prior to us actually shutting down. I'd been in contact kind of envisaging where this was going and the effect it was having on our cash flow, even at that time, with people starting to self-isolate with either long-term health conditions or concerned at all about family members. So I think the open conversation has been very useful in managing the expectations, and to date the communication back has just been, well, make sure you hold on to your cash in case you need it to pay your staff, rather than to at this point pay rent. Business rates was only applicable to 2 of our premises out of the 5. One of them qualifies for small business rates relief, so we're just in the process of doing the kind of fund application via the local authorities council website. And I feel quite positive about what the outcome of that one will be. The second one, we don't qualify for small business rates relief, and also there's a lot of kind of inconsistencies around what that will look like, because it does come under D1 medical use. So as part of kind of my within the group of the Musculoskeletal Partners Network, we've collectively written to MPs, councillors, and shared that information with the business rates team in Oxford City Council. And so again, we're just waiting for some communication. I, again, prior to shutdown, had taken a call to cancel our direct debit, so no cash went out on the 1st of April, and by not paying by direct debit, your next payment isn't actually due until the 1st of May, and so I'm actually not currently behind in payments to them, so we'll just have to wait and see what communication comes after that. Going forward, as I say, I have actually been non-clinical as a physio for the last 2 years since my last maternity leave. I have a little 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so I teach my Pilates classes a week, which I'm actually loving. And I'm increasing and going to start another one as well. Otherwise I'm kind of managing all the admin associated with the business, marketing, finances, and just from the size of us, we're under $1 million turnover, so it's manageable kind of for myself. And also I love it, so I'm really happy to be doing it. I took over the business because I enjoyed doing the business side of it rather than falling into that So yeah, I think the biggest challenges kind of going forward for us are going to be just family life, working from home. My husband's a deputy head of a school. We have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, juggling our kind of time, being available for calls, getting the finances done, keeping on top of things. Also finding then some quiet time in the house where you can teach a class or my husband teach a lesson will be interesting. But I definitely feel that kind of I've got the support network from the point of view of our team, but also at home. And I think health is going to be really, really high up people's agenda now and going forward. So if you can kind of ride the storm at this point and just use it as a time of kind of reflection, and also really communicating with your existing clients, thinking about what you want out of the business, I suppose, short, mid-term, long-term, and still enjoying it at the end of it, will kind of hopefully set you in good path going forward. And that's definitely how I'm kind of starting to view it, that it's a pause, it's not a stop. It's a period of reflection. It's a period kind of to think about what I enjoy doing. Also, I suppose a little bit of time looking at your processes and your operations and how they are running and whether they can be improved at all. So that's how I'm kind of using our time, as well as it's slightly changing now, but just using it as an opportunity to enjoy our daily exercise and get some sunshine as well. And definitely for me, limiting my news exposure to only once a day. I hope that's helpful. I'm really enjoying being part of the kind of Musculoskeletal Partners Network and seeing where this develops. I think there's definitely a need for it. I think just the challenge at the moment is there's lots of kind of little subgroups starting up, especially kind of around Facebook and support networks that way, and just trying to kind of draw that all together if possible, so that there's a bit of kind of a common voice going forward. I hope you have a good day. Thank you.